At first, they were different, attentive, interested, consistent. They listened carefully. They showed effort. They made you feel like you mattered. It felt genuine, like you had finally met someone who truly valued you. But the moment they got what they wanted, everything changed. The energy shifted. The effort faded. The person you thought you knew suddenly felt unfamiliar. Messages became shorter. Patience disappeared. And the attention you once received started feeling like a distant memory. You start asking yourself the same haunting question most people ask in moments like this. Was that the real them? Or was this the real them? Today, we're diving into the dark psychology behind why people suddenly change after they get what they want. Because this pattern isn't random. It's driven by human behavior, emotional strategy, and sometimes manipulation. Once you understand what's happening beneath the surface, you stop blaming yourself for someone else's transformation. And more importantly, you start recognizing the signs before it happens again. One of the biggest reasons people change after getting what they want is simple. The chase is over. The human brain is heavily motivated by pursuit. When someone is trying to win your attention, affection, trust, or approval, their mind enters what psychologists call the reward-seeking phase. Effort increases, focus sharpens, attention becomes intense. During the pursuit stage, people often present the best possible version of themselves. They listen more, they compliment more, they show patience they may not naturally have. But once the reward is obtained, once they feel the goal has been achieved, the psychological pressure to maintain that level of effort disappears. The performance relaxes, and what remains is closer to their baseline behavior. Sometimes that shift feels like betrayal, but in many cases, it's simply the end of the chase. Another reason people change is because motivation changes. Before they get what they want, their actions are driven by acquisition. After they get it, their behavior becomes driven by maintenance, or sometimes by boredom. Acquisition requires energy. Maintenance requires discipline, and not everyone is disciplined enough to maintain the same level of attention they showed during pursuit. Think of it like this. Winning someone over is exciting. It's stimulating. It's unpredictable. But maintaining emotional responsibility over time requires maturity. If someone was driven mainly by excitement rather than genuine commitment, their effort naturally fades once the excitement disappears. What you're witnessing isn't just change, it's the difference between attraction and responsibility. There's also a darker psychological factor involved, strategic behavior. Some people know exactly what they're doing. They mirror your interests, they say the right things, they display empathy and attentiveness that feels almost perfect. This technique is often called emotional mirroring. By reflecting your values, preferences, and emotions back to you, they create the illusion of deep compatibility. It builds trust quickly. But mirroring is a strategy, not necessarily a personality. Once the goal is achieved, whether that goal is attention, validation, intimacy, or control, the need to maintain the mirror disappears. And when the mirror disappears, you finally see who they are without the performance. This is why the change can feel so sudden. The version of them you bonded with was partly constructed. Another reason people change is emotional investment imbalance. Sometimes you become more attached than they do. During the pursuit stage, they invest energy because they want something from you. But after they receive it, the emotional balance shifts. Now you're the one protecting the connection. You're the one remembering the good moments. You're the one hoping things go back to how they were. And when one person becomes the primary protector of the relationship, the other person unconsciously relaxes. They know you're invested. They know you're trying. And that awareness reduces the urgency for them to maintain the same level of effort. The power dynamic quietly changes. There's also the psychology of novelty. Humans are naturally attracted to new experiences. New people create curiosity. New conversations create stimulation. New connections release dopamine. But novelty has a built-in expiration date. Once familiarity sets in, the brain no longer experiences the same chemical reward. For emotionally mature individuals, this is where deeper connection begins. But for people who chase stimulation rather than stability, the drop in novelty feels like a loss, so they withdraw. Not because you changed, but because the thrill of discovery faded. And instead of building depth, they start looking for a new chase. Another uncomfortable truth is that sometimes people change because their original behavior was transactional. They weren't investing because they valued you. They were investing because they wanted something: validation, attention, support, access, status, intimacy. Once the transaction is completed, the motivation disappears. It's similar to a salesperson who suddenly stops calling after the deal is signed. Their objective was never long-term connection. It was the outcome. When you realize this dynamic, the sudden change stops being confusing. It becomes predictable. But there's another angle most people overlook. Sometimes the change happens because people stop trying to impress you. Early in any connection, people are hyper-aware of how they are perceived. They monitor their words, they manage their reactions, they carefully present themselves. But once comfort sets in, self-monitoring decreases. This is when real personality traits become visible. Their impatience, their emotional habits, their communication style. What feels like a sudden personality shift might simply be the mask coming off. Not because they were malicious, but because the effort required to maintain that mask indefinitely is exhausting. The most painful realization is this: the person you experienced during the pursuit stage may not have been entirely fake, but it also wasn't entirely sustainable. People often show their peak behavior when trying to gain something, but long-term connection reveals their natural behavior. The key lesson isn't to distrust everyone, it's to observe consistency over time. Anyone can be impressive for a short period. True character reveals itself through patterns, not promises. So why do people suddenly change after they get what they want? Because the chase ends. Because motivation shifts from acquisition to maintenance. Because some people mirror emotions strategically. Because emotional investment becomes unbalanced. Because novelty fades. Because some connections were transactional from the beginning. And sometimes because the real personality simply begins to surface. But here's the most important takeaway. Someone changing after getting what they want doesn't mean you were naive. It means you encountered human nature in its raw form. The real skill isn't avoiding people entirely. It's learning to slow down the process, watch patterns, observe consistency, pay attention to how someone behaves after they gain comfort. Because character isn't revealed during the chase. Character is revealed after the chase ends. And once you understand that, you stop falling for intensity and start valuing consistency instead.